Anything further on the dates? Nope. We've moved to old business and district reconfiguration update from Dr. Zalis.
I'll just sit here, and I got a few slides I wanted to show you. Kelly, if you get the lights. We said we'll keep at least portion of this on the perpetual agenda. Go ahead, man. And focus on transitions, since we've had a couple meetings and had a staff development day where we did a lot with the transitions team. So there won't be any construction, 7th grade activities, early childhood report. Okay. Our objectives, again, and what we've been working heavily on are these 3 objectives, particularly with the curriculum part and then the internal communications piece in the 3rd bullet. I was actually last week over with Alex and Dr. Pritchett with the Principals Advisory Group, talking a little bit about some of this. Okay. Our planning priorities, and we met on the 27th of January, which we gave a full presentation on all 4 groups, and then we met again yesterday, or the 17th of, and our focus right now is building the mock schedules for 2017-18. The reason being is that actually the challenge for the principals, appreciate their efforts there, is to not only work on 16-17, but 17-18 simultaneously, and really expedite 17-18 so that we can identify where the places are that we need to affect personnel that might need to travel between 2 buildings, or maybe in the case of some go from traveling 3 buildings to 2 buildings, but in space configurations, et cetera. So we're trying to account for the specials and exploratories as part of that process, and I asked that they do that without any additional full-time equivalents, meaning that we can make all these schedules work if we add a lot more people than what we said we were going to add because of the bond and the levy, particularly the levy that supports the staff. So we've met with the elementary principals, even though they weren't part of the original transitions team. Now they've been brought in, and we talked through the same meeting we had with transitions. So all the administrative team is on the same page and working on schedules at the elementary level for the early childhood piece too. We want them to plan as if it's not there for the purpose of a K through 3, but knowing that we're going to be bringing pre-K programming into the buildings. Okay. So on February 12th Staff Development Day, that Friday, we said here, and what we did was we had a listening session. We met collectively with those teachers that are at 4th, 7th, and 9th grade, but we opened it up to anybody that wanted to listen. And we shared the presentation with them that we shared with you at our last board meeting, which was a construction update. All 4 teams reported progress. But we wanted to share also with the group, 2 days prior to this meeting, on that Wednesday, Dr. Davis had made a site visit to Branson to see an upper elementary, a 4th, 5th, and 6th configured building, how instruction was delivered, as you well know by now, and hopefully those that know what we're doing. We use Branson as one of our models for the purpose of transition and delivery of early childhood. But she and Mrs. Norman spent over 3 hours just touring those 2 elementary schools. They have 2 intermediates, just learning scheduling processes. And the affirmations for the track that we're on right now was one of the things that she said, the fact that we're communicating. Our transitions are different than theirs, but just kind of shared generally what they learned. And some of the questions we've received on the delivery of 4th grade instruction has been, aside from playground equipment, has been 2 of the top questions that we've received. And so Dr. Davis was able to share that the plans are to team in the 4th grade, team teach in 4th grade, which is something that teachers would want to know if their 4th grade teachers moving to that building, or if they want to consider staying at the elementary school by changing grade levels. Also, Mrs. Fulton has assembled a pretty good notebook on schedules and have talked to several people at the junior high who've moved to 7th and 8th grade. What's that schedule look like? She's got some good examples, and she was able to share that in our large group meeting on the 17th, but also helped with her breakout meeting that occurred. So after we had the group together, we went through some of these things. We actually then broke into 3 groups. And Mr. Hounsom was with Mrs. Fulton with the 7th grade teachers. Dr. Pritchett was with Mr. Henshaw for the 9th grade. And Dr. Davis and Mrs. Norman and I kept the 4th grade staff in the auditorium to talk. You go ahead. Well, the rest of the dates there, I just would kind of not reading this to you, but we have a meeting scheduled on the 9th of next month, just with the building principals. We're going to try to see how far that we can get with building the mock schedule, so that when we have a staff development day in April, that we can actually share some of the results of that. We didn't intend to go into the meeting last Friday, our staff development day, with all the answers to the questions, since our goal was to listen to what their concerns might be. But the actual transitions team will meet then on the 16th of March, and then we'll hope to have some more progress to share with them, because by the timeline that we have set forth, we're to meet from February to May. If you remember the circular graphs that we used for each of the 4 teams. Okay. Go ahead, Nancy. So what I reminded the group when we were together, and I think it can't be said too many times, is that these are the things we promised to do. And in our meeting, when everyone was together, we had all these specials and exploratory teachers that have concerns about their programs, whether it's fine arts and health and all those other areas. We have coaches and people that are passionate about programs that exist in our district. And so I wanted to make sure everybody understood that what the voters allowed us to do and the money that generates is already specifically earmarked for this project, and those were the promises we made. I think it's important for our staff to hear that, again, communicating inside out, because you have a tendency to think in reconfiguration that means a lot more can happen. And so the old teacher in me came out and I said, please turn off your phones and pay attention. Don't do anything in here that would get yourself sent to the office if you were in your own class, please. Having said all that, as soon as the meeting was done, I no more than took one step forward. I had somebody come to me and say, so when do you think we can add 7th and 8th grade softball? Which means that's not on the list of things that we said that we were going to do. The 7th grade activities that we said we were going to start are exactly what we're currently doing at 8th grade, not anything new, which is why when we build the mock schedules, we're beginning with 0 FTE impact. Yeah. That's exactly what was said. So there are lots of things that we would all like to do, and what we want from our directors and our sponsors is passion about their program and growth. Once we get to 2017 and our youngest learners are in our elementary schools at pre-K, and our freshmen are comfortably nestled in, our 7th graders are nestled in, things are rolling, then obviously the district's going to continue to move forward. But keeping people focused, and that includes us, because we just have to do that. And so we're having private and individual conversations with several folks who want to know more about this internally before we work ourselves out, because the kids and the parents, I think, by and large, all the places I've been are excited about the opportunities. This is a good thing. We are going to be able to do things for kids that we've not been able to do before, and that is where we begin our discussions. So playground equipment, our elementary principals and middle school, they're working on that, and the PTOs are interested in that because kids need places to play, and I think all the playground equipment vendors certainly know that we have a reconfiguration plan because the prices are not reflecting volume purchase, but so they're all working on those things, and the scheduling and how the delivery of instruction. Yeah. I think one of the best PTO meetings I've been to was at Wyman last week, because the questions that the parents were asking, there were several of them there, over 30, were really good and along those lines. But the energy in the room was positive in that we're really excited about this, particularly those parents that have kids that are touched at all 3 areas. That's really been quite good. Go ahead, Nancy, I don't even remember what I put next. Just the timeline again is on our website. I inched the arrow forward a little bit because we're moving toward trout season, which is March 1st. And that's the first sign of spring, and in my mind. Anyway, not that I'm a trout fisherman, just it gets us out of inclement weather in February.
Mostly.
Yeah, so you see, we're going to meet with this group all the way up till May, so we'll have a lot more to share as we move forward. But we've done a lot of work, and Jamie and Jane are on the transitions team committee, and have been privy to some of all of this, and certainly would ask them to add anything they'd like to add about what we've done. Go ahead, Nancy. Don't know what. Yeah.
Good. Steph?
Jamie or Jane, anything to add to what you just brought out?
I think one of the things we talked about just yesterday was the idea of, you can address those mock schedules as trying to not change anything more than you have to. In other words, maintaining the status quo. Or you can go the other way and say, we're going to do a lot of things differently and so forth. And but Kelly brought up the issue of it's really about doing what has perhaps worked elsewhere effectively, but also what the research says is the best way to do it. And if we focus on that, the other issues will fall into place.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, we had enough time built in that actually the fourth grade teachers could walk the building with Mrs. Davis, or Dr. Davis and Mrs. Norman, which was really good. They just said, you guys want to go see the classrooms? We make the assumption that everybody knows because we know the district, that everybody knows the district. When you can be in the high school for an entire year and maybe not go to another spot in the high school because your job just means that you're in a certain area. Same would be true. It is possible, even in our offices upstairs, I can go a day or two without seeing somebody if I really put my mind to it. But you have to get up and move. Some days I put my mind to it.
People now?
But my point is, we assume that everybody knows what every building looks like and so just those questions about split lunch shifts and will we be able to take our kids outside, and is the building's really noisy. Fourth graders in the center of the middle school, those fifth graders and sixth graders, but there were teachers that already teaching that building that were in the room that just like we have in the past with parents that are transitioning and say, no, you don't hear that. It's not really what it's like here. And so I think that the more we do that, we've on a previous presentation, we've planned some social events where our principals will invite those staff members down in an evening for dinner and, kind of walk through the building and
Culinary
get to
arts.
learn a little bit more in the buildings where they can walk and see more of the schedule and become more at ease with the people they'll be working with. And that we plan to do a year and some from now. We'll be doing that once these things have all settled and people know exactly where they're going to be. But good questions, and again, it's positive, and a lot of them are excited. I underestimated how many of them actually are okay with it because they see some opportunity. As Jamie says, what we're going to be able to do with fourth grade and team teaching and taking the strengths of certain teachers and working together is quite exciting, and exciting for some of those staff members. But those that want to stay in the building that they're at, we're certainly going to work like as we can to make that happen too. We can't promise all of that, but we don't want to. We're going to do it as diplomatic as we possibly can, and we understand that change is tough sometimes. So.
Change is always tough, and it's just so important to remember the bigger picture and the goal that, what we're trying to do for the kids. And there are going to be situations that maybe aren't as comfortable for individual as they wish it was, but the overall good is where we're headed. Hope we can all stay focused on that.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments on the transition discussion?